I can just remember as far back as 10 or 11 years old, I wanted to be a part of something. Struggled with addictions from a young age. I started around 12, 13 years old, and eventually around 15, 16, got more involved with gangs, got more involved with drug usage. By the age of 23, man, is my first trip to prison. Got out about a year and a half later, and the problem was still there. I would live in abandoned houses. I would sleep behind garbage cans. Drugs had robbed me of everything, and it took away my daughter. I just was living like an animal. I knew that there was something that needed to change, but I just didn't know how. I was actually standing behind a dumpster, and it was nighttime, and I remember the peace that came over me, because I said, God, I would rather go back to prison than continue to go through this life like this. And I remember the brokenness, how I felt. And the next day, some people woke me up and they said, Ty, there's some guys dressed in army suits over here. I went over to them and I asked them, I said, you know, are y'all the cops? And they were like, no, we're not police, man. And I said, what are y'all doing here? And they said, well, we're just, we're doing service work for the Lord. We're just kind of cleaning up. And I immediately knew that it was a sign from God. They surrounded me and they began to pray for me. I got in that day, and my life has never been the same since. This program was extremely difficult for me. Getting up at 5:30 in the morning every day, having a routine, is something that I had been so separated from for so long. And I remember Sarge saying to me, we work as a team, and we would either fall together or we would stand together. And I began to have some respect towards myself again. While I was here, I went through some tough times. Sometimes that inner healing, it hurts. But when you start to praise, it changes the way you view things. I'm learning how to be a father to my daughter. And I'm learning how to be a man. When you're near death, when you're right there next to death, and God picks you up and saves you, you can't imagine the way I feel inside whenever I sing and I think about what God has done, the goodness of God. When I think about all the things that I tried to do to myself and all the ways that God was loving me, man, I can't help but be emotional. I believe that God used the men of Nehemiah specifically for me. I personalized this ministry. This ministry was brought to Dallas to save me.